Welcome everybody, and thank you for joining us for Creative Solutions for Delivering Course Content. We are in strange times indeed. Most everybody has had to find a new way of connecting with their students, connecting their students with the course content that they would have probably done in person. And so what we're going to have today is a few different instructors share their way of going about this during the live sessions, and also some additional things about grading and annotations that you might use to take away with. So let me go ahead and get started. Without further ado, we're going to start with Dorina Corna, and she's going to talk about how she uses her whiteboard behind her while she's web conferencing. And after that, I will be sharing how to set up a doc cam, or kind of a makeshift MacGyver doc cam. And then we're going to move into a couple more advanced topics as well. So I'm going to go ahead and let Dorina get us kicked off. Thank you.
Sure. I'm Dorina Corna, and maybe you don't know, but I'm one of the instructors in the Microelectronics technology program who is teaching electronics courses. I don't know if it is the nature of the courses that I'm teaching or is my personality, but when the college announced its closing, my panic mode was in full swing. So my personal way of pulling myself out of that was to use the approach of sticking to the basics. And that offered me a little bit of comfort in everything I had to do in a very short time, like everybody else. So sticking to the basics means for me to hold my part of my lectures on the whiteboard, to write notes on the physical whiteboard. And I hope I didn't mislead you when you signed up for this workshop and when you saw somebody is going to talk about using the whiteboard in her classes. You probably were believing that I'm using something very sophisticated. No, it's the good old whiteboard, which I use when I teach the classes on campus. But it's a very helpful way for me to convey the message. In addition to the physical whiteboard, I have improvised at the last minute little lab, an electronic workbench, as I managed to find in my garage an old oscilloscope and an old breadboard and some multimeters, and I grabbed some components from the lab. So I like to do a lot of demos when I teach the labs. Of course, my demos are doubled by the simulations that are done by the students as a replacement of the hands-on labs. So back to the basics, but the combination between the old-fashioned of teaching a class and Google Meet, everything guided by the desire to learn features and portals, work great for me. Students are happy, and I hope they get the message. They get the content. We'll see exactly when the assessment time comes, if my feeling is correct or not. Any questions?
Thank you, Dorina. Are there any questions anyone would like to ask before we move on to the next presenter? I think you saw the pictures that I shared in the background while you were speaking, and we saw a little bit of Dorina live as well with her whiteboard behind.
Where did you get the whiteboard, Dorina?
To be honest, it was the panic that made me start hunting for one on the last day when I was on campus. So this whiteboard belongs to Rock Creek campus. However, I was able to find some available online at Office Depot. So if anybody is interested in acquiring one, in purchasing one, there are some nice whiteboards available for sale there.
Thank you.
Dorina, do you record your lectures while you're presenting?
I was hesitant in the beginning to do that, again, because I didn't want another layer of complications and of novelties applied to my, my classes. However, I have a student with learning disabilities taking one of these courses, and she started to record them for her own benefit. And I received the recordings and I can share them with the whole class. And to my surprise, the process of sharing the recordings is very easy. I do that again through Google Meet. And the quality of the recordings is not as bad as I expected it to be. I hate to listen to myself in those recordings, but students claim that they are helpful. The recordings are helpful. So from now, I mean, starting with the second week of class, yes, we started to record all our meetings.
What size is that whiteboard?
Well, I would say that's a good question. 48 by 36, maybe. And apparently inches. And apparently this is the good size for what the camera can capture.
Right, okay.
In my case.
Yeah, and of course you can always adjust the camera, move it forward, move it back, just to get the right
And
fit.
I always adjust, yes, the angle, and based on what the students are telling me.
Thanks, Dorina. So I think that's a really great example of, you know, your basic transition from in-person to doing something live over web conferencing, where it doesn't have to get super advanced in order to deliver the content that you need. So thank you so much, Dorina.
My pleasure, thank you.
I'm gonna, so I am going to talk about next the option of creating a kind of makeshift dock camera by connecting your smartphone to the Zoom meeting itself. Basically, this was something that I worked on specifically with the art and music instructors over at Rock Creek to find a solution for them to show in-person live demonstrations. And so we worked through a few different iterations, and there are different ways of doing this. I think this is the easiest way because most people do have a smartphone that they can connect to Zoom. And there's really only a couple of things that you need to keep in mind when you do this. So let me go ahead and show you guys. Now I'm going to switch over to my dock cam, which is my phone. Let me go ahead and spotlight that. Next, I have to disconnect my audio from my computer. And this is key because the video is going to follow wherever the audio goes. And you don't want any of that feedback. So to do that, I just go to the little caret next to the microphone and I leave computer audio. So one moment, I'm going to switch to my phone audio. Okay, so now I am in my phone audio. Can you guys give me a thumbs up so I know you can hear me? Awesome, thanks, Alma. So what I have here, I'm gonna pan out for a second to show you guys my like super makeshift scaffolding here. What I have done is simply propped up, oops, I have propped up whatever I had along with something hard and simply set my phone right on top. And of course, I'm sure much like Dorina, this takes some kind of, you know, you're gonna have to do a test run or two. But here, now, if I need to demonstrate something, be it a math equation, which I'm like, what's the math equation I know offhand? Is a squared plus b squared equals c squared still a thing?
That is still a thing, yes.
There we go.
It's a little thing called the Pythagorean theorem.
Great. So it still stands the test of time. So you can see, you know, based on, you can raise or lower your phone to show this, or you can like write bigger. Or we have, we had an instructor actually showing like a photo, because she's showing drawings. So she would put her photo, her physical photo would be printed out. This was Bethany Hayes that I'm basing this on. Her physical photo on the left, and then she would be here drawing for her figure drawing, which I'm gonna put her to shame a little bit here. You know, she's the teacher, she's the expert, right? But you can see these are my hands. And I'm just making this paper as visible as possible. And it's really, the key to this is changing your audio. And there are other options with connecting your phone. We're going to talk about later. There's something called AirPlay that you can connect if you have iPhone connected to another Apple device. There are other options. I know some people were using Epic Cam. It's an app that I believe allows you to connect your phone in a different way. But I kind of just opt for using my phone, opening up the Zoom app, and connecting directly to the session. And now I'm going to switch back. And now I am back in the session, back on my computer. One benefit of having both devices as opposed to maybe just connecting with your phone is that the host features on a laptop are going to be way easier to maneuver, I think. And as long as you remember to disconnect your audio on your laptop or your first device before connecting your audio to your phone, the video will follow. There was an additional option that I worked out with the music department because they wanted to be able to share like sheet music alongside someone live demonstrating. And so that requires a little bit of student participation. It basically, there's a setting inside of Zoom to allow side-by-side viewing. And so I have written out instructions for anybody that might be interested in doing a side-by-side view. But I think, you know, if you are someone that would utilize having a dot cam, and maybe you don't have a dot cam, your smartphone can do the trick. This was actually really handy for a couple of yoga instructors as well, using their phone because, you know, a laptop is a little bit, it's just kind of more cumbersome to navigate, to like move around a room. And if you have, you know, something smaller, having that video feed available. And maybe if you're a movement instructor that, you know, it might be easier for you to just host from the other device and not worry about connecting with your laptop. That's another great way to be able to move around the room a bit more easily. Jane asked, how do I keep the phone from falling off? I've had people tape their phone right to whatever hard thing. I think that's really kind of like however you can figure it out. Mine is sitting simply on top of a hard surface, and about 90% of the phone is still on the hard surface, and it's just the camera that is exposed. So it's quite sturdy up there.
I have a suggestion about taping the phone. There's this stuff called gaffer's tape, Gaffers, that they use in the movie industry that's guaranteed to not leave adhesive residue on what you tape it to. And Amazon has it,
Gaffer's
probably
tape.
other places do. So that's a possibly useful thing.
Cool, thanks for the tip.
AC Dennis has a question. How are the PCC Zoom and phone Zoom connected? And I think you're just logged in twice. You logged in with each of them.
Basically, I have the app on my phone, the Zoom app, and I am logged into my PCC account on my phone. And I just join with the meeting ID on my phone. I start the meeting as normal on my laptop, and then I join the meeting. And it recognizes me, so more often than not, I'll be host and co-host. Whichever one hops on first will be host.
So you're not using Bluetooth or anything between your phone and your PC? or anything like that?
No, that
Okay.
will be an option, you know, like wireless connection between the two devices. We'll actually show that in a little bit with AirPlay, with Apple. It works specifically with Apple.
Okay.
But yeah, for mine, I've got an Android, and I just connect to the meeting and switch my audio with whichever I want to be presenting with the dot cam, or if I just want to be talking to my students.
Okay. Oh, just enter in the meeting ID in the Zoom
Yeah.
app. Okay. I see that here in the chat. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're
How do
welcome.
you get the link for the online room to your phone?
So you don't get the link, you get the meeting ID. And the meeting ID, if you're used to joining through online rooms on D2L, it's actually listed just next to the topic. If you go to online rooms and then upcoming meetings, it'll be listed right next to the topic name will be that meeting ID. And then
Okay.
on your phone, you click join meeting and it'll ask for that meeting ID.
Cool, good, thanks.
Yeah, great questions, you guys. And so once again, I have the option of doing side by side. I've got specific instructions for that. If anybody else is interested in that, I will have this slideshow as well as a couple of like tutorial documents available with this recording. I wanted to let everybody know the first two options that we just explored, I would say are you know, more basic solutions. And now we're gonna move into some more advanced solutions. So I would just say with a caveat, if you're brand new to all of this, just let it wash over you. You don't have to take everything away, and hopefully you leave with like one or two tidbits. So with that, I'm going to introduce Alma, who is using her iPad to connect to Zoom and to share content with that. And without further ado, you can go ahead and get started.
Thanks for having me. I don't really feel like an expert here, but I do love using my iPad in conjunction with the Apple Pencil to deliver content. If you've ever seen me on campus, you usually see me carrying it around as well. I use it a lot. So I'm gonna share a couple things that I've been using with the iPad, both in class, and I'm gonna show also the D2L Brightspace Grader app for those that are using it. So one of the reasons that I like using the iPad is that I have a separate device that I'm able to work with when instructing, and then able to kind of keep everything else up on the screen for seeing what's going on with my students. So using the screen share tool within Zoom, you're able to share either your phone or your iPad via AirPlay. So I'm going to do that here. So in sharing my screen directly from my iPad, right now I have a PowerPoint up. So if I was giving a lecture, I could have the PowerPoint presentation ready to go. And then when I bring it up, it's displayed to the students. One of the things that I really like about using this tool through the iPad versus sharing a screen directly from the computer, from the desktop or laptop, is that I can use my Apple Pencil. So for instance, if I had a diagram up on a slide, I can mark up on it when talking about, you know, whatever it is I'm talking about here, or draw little diagrams off to the side. So it's very interactive, similar to having, you know, a whiteboard with a diagram in a classroom setting. The other thing that I found useful in using the PowerPoint and being able to mark up on slides is to actually insert blank slides that act like whiteboards in the middle of the presentation. So this is just a blank screen or a blank slide that I left in there with a prompt for maybe a group discussion. So I might ask, what is your favorite exercise? In a smaller group, I might allow students to share that verbally. In a larger group, I will ask them to write that up on the chat feature within Zoom, and I'd be able to use them or respond to them, and I could write this. So I don't know, maybe some of you really love squats, okay, or lunges. Maybe some of you guys like running or whatever it is. So, but write up on the slides. So I don't have to bounce back and forth between slides and like the whiteboard feature within Zoom. It's all in one application. The other thing that I like about this is that once I'm done, I'm able to save the images from the slides and what I've written on them and share them with students later. So I can just share the slide with the markup, whatever I've written on with their responses, or if I've added into that, and share the image either through an announcement or an email later, just to kind of connect back to the content that we covered in class. So I've really enjoyed that feature in being able to share PowerPoint. The other thing that I've used a lot is using it like a whiteboard. Having the iPad and the Apple Pencil, it's a really easy tool. It's great interaction, and versus trying to like kind of bounce back and forth between the whiteboard within Zoom. So I, for the most part, had been using just the Notes app that's built into the iOS on the iPad. I tried using a whiteboard app before, but the whiteboard app gave me just one screen of blank space. By using the Notes app with this blank space, do this up here, you know, I can write whatever I want in here, okay? And then if I want to move on to another topic, all I have to do is scroll that up, okay? And I can move that aside, and then I can go on and write more, and then keep scrolling from there. So it gives me a long continuous space to be able to write on a whiteboard. Also, doing it within the Notes app lets me download it later, and I can share it with the students as well. So if we've worked on something as a group together, we can, or I can make it accessible to them later, either again through an announcement on D2L or through an email by saving it as a PDF file. So again, it's really easy to interact with on my part because I've got it just off to the side. I can handwrite just like I would if I had a big whiteboard in an actual face-to-face class. So those are the two main features that I've used it for. Okay. Casey, you mentioned that, and that was after our discussion the other day, that I thought that the AirPlay feature only worked between Apple devices. And I read that you can actually use an Apple device like an iPad and then AirPlay it also to a PC, so on a Windows operating system. So I haven't done it. I don't have a Windows operating system to take a look to try it out with. So I don't know how well it interacts. So I know Apple tends to talk a little bit better than Apple Windows.
Cool, thanks for the follow-up on that. That's really encouraging.
Yeah, so for those of you that are working off the Windows operating system and maybe you have an iPad, you can still interact with, you'll hopefully still be able to interact that way.
Tell me how you get an iPhone to AirPlay to an iPad or vice versa?
To an iPad, I'm not sure if you can do that. I've done it to, I have an iMac and then a MacBook, a laptop and a desktop that I've used to AirPlay it to. So that's what I use to kind of manage the classroom in Zoom. And then I use a device to display it. So I'm not sure if that feature exists. I know that the app on the iPad doesn't have as many features. In the desktop version though, when you select screen share, and it gives you options of, you know, if you want to do the whole desktop or a specific application on the desktop. And then one of the other options is to AirPlay an iPad or iPhone. So that's the way that I'm connecting it.
The situation is, so the situation is a Macintosh and an iPad?
That's the way I'm using it. I also read though that you can use a PC, a Windows PC, laptop, or desktop and AirPlay it to that, although I've not used it. Okay. And the question about connecting the iPad to an iMac by USB, there is an option to connect it through a cord through a tether. So again, I haven't used it. I just used the wireless version. I have heard that there is some lag time sometimes when using the wireless version. So I have not experienced it, so I haven't felt the need to go and try to figure out how to do it through a cord. Okay. And Greg's asking how much is the Apple Pencil? It's not cheap. It's, I think, about $90 maybe, $90. So I got it 2 years ago, and well, it's just been a great tool for me personally and professionally. So that's how I use the iPad in instruction. I can also share the D2L Grader app and using the Apple Pencil within that real quick as well. Greg's suggesting maybe there's some generous division deans. I suppose you can ask.
Alma, correct me if I'm wrong. When you go to share your screen and it goes, you can share with AirPlay, instructions pop up right there telling you what to do on your device to enable it.
Yes. Yes.
The screen mirroring and such, right?
Yeah. So once you select share through Zoom, it requests that you select the mirror screen feature from iOS. For those of you who haven't done it, you just swipe from the upper right-hand corner and the option comes up. It's one of the control center options. And for any of you that are, have these tools that you want to use, but you're not sure how to do it, I'd be happy to walk you through it one-on-one. So I've helped some others as well. So they're great tools to use and very interactive. So I'm a big proponent of using them. And yes, the Apple Pen only works with newer versions of the iPad. Mine is a little over 2 years old, 2.5 years old now. And but it was one of the earlier versions that offered the access to the Apple Pen. So something to actually definitely look at if you have an iPad is to see if it's going to be compatible with the Apple Pencil. I will show you real quick the Grader app and using the Apple Pencil in the Grader app. So this is the D2L Brightspace Grader app. Even if you don't have the Apple Pencil, it still offers some useful tools for interacting with the assignment folders on D2L. So when you select a student's work in an assignment folder, you'll have the assignment pop up there. Okay. The app itself will allow you to input feedback and a score, just like you do in the desktop version. But it also allows you to handwrite directly on a student's work. So if you like to annotate work, I can see this being very useful for the math teachers out there, being able to annotate on students' work. And then once you're done, it saves it, you publish it, and then the students can access the document with your marked up comments within the assignment folder at the end. Yeah, so that's how I use the iPad in instruction and assessment. So if anybody has any questions, I'm happy to answer them. I'm also happy to meet outside of class, kind of walk through outside of training opportunity and walk you through some of this too.
Thank you, Alma. That was really digestible. Actually, I was like, oh, is this going to be, too much? But that was really great. And it seems like super useful with the grading app as well.
Yeah.
That grading app is, if you have an iPad and haven't put the app in, I believe there's like a launch for it right when you go to the gradebook, or perhaps when you're in assignments, it says launch the iPad grading app or something like that, right?
Yeah, and I think if you open up assignments through like Safari or Chrome through a web browser, it'll prompt you to open up the app. So if I'm grading on my app, or on my iPad, that's what I choose to use over the web-based version. It's a little less glitchy.
Great. I think everybody's in the same boat as I am. That was nice and easy to understand. Thanks, Alma. So up next, we have Austina, who is going to talk about similarly using Microsoft Surface with Zoom to connect to Zoom with a special app that she uses, Drawboard PDF, in sharing presentation materials, as well as using the grading inside of D2L. So this is, I guess, a little bit of a misnomer. It's the D2L annotations tool that she uses. So go ahead, Austina, whenever you're ready.
Yeah, hey everyone. So my name is Austina Fong. I am an instructor in math, and I teach online and I teach in person as well. And then I'm also the online faculty mentor for math. I'll go ahead and share my screen here. And so, like Casey mentioned, I use the Surface, Microsoft Surface, which is a tablet and a PC all in one. And so I thought I'd just show you a picture of what it looks like since I'm using it right now. So I can't really show you that in this moment. But basically, like the keyboard detaches and it has a little kickstand and you can write directly on the screen. So it's pretty handy in that sense. And so the way that I use this in my, I'll talk about how I use it both in my delivering course content and also with grading, because it is great for both. So the way that I run my on-campus class, which is now, of course, a remote class, is I've been running it with kind of a flipped model. So since I teach online courses as well, I already had video lectures for my Calculus 2 class, which is my remote course. So I have students watch a video lecture, which is usually about an hour or less over a topic. And they watch that asynchronously just on their own time before we have our virtual class meeting. So just to give you an example, like here's my calendar. And so tomorrow they will need to have watched this section 5.5. And then I can actually go into, well, I'll show you what the video looks like. This is kind of the content where they can go see the videos. And where basically everything is within D2L. So this is that video that they would watch over section 5.5. You can see that this particular one was done using a document camera a while back. So they watch that, and then I give them participation points based on whether they watched the video before the due date. I don't give attendance points for them coming to the virtual session, just since not everyone has the ability to do that. So the way that I check to see if they watched the video lecture is you can go into so when you're in the content tab, the important thing is being in the table of contents, and then you'll see this related tools. And if you click on view reports, it'll show you basically like all of your content, and then you can actually go through, and when you click on the number, I'm not going to because I don't want to show the students in here, but if I were to click on this, then it would show how many, like which students have watched it and which students haven't. They still have some time, so I'm not too worried about this 9, considering I have like 30 people in my class and they have an exam due tonight, so they are kind of focusing on that. But that's the way I can look and see if they've done what they're supposed to do before class. So that's the asynchronous part. And then what I wanted to show you is more like what we actually do during the virtual sessions. And so what we tend to do is we go over some lecture notes. So I basically put together blank lecture notes that is just basically one giant PDF. You can see it's like 70 something pages. And this is like everything that we're going to go through in the entirety of Calculus 2. And so these are the blank ones. And what we do is we basically fill these lecture notes out either as they watch the video lecture. There's some similarities and I will fill those in for them because they've kind of already seen that problem. So I'll fill that part in and I'll show you kind of like, here's the 5.5. So I'll fill this part in and you'll notice that some parts are done and then other parts are blank. So this might be something that they haven't seen in the video yet that I want us to work on during the actual class time. So this is where it gets a little bit maybe complicated. So like Casey mentioned, if this is kind of like a little bit too complicated, feel free to just pick, cherry pick whatever is helpful from this. So I have Google Drive file stream downloaded on my computer. So I'll just show you, where did I have that pulled up? I think it's not that one. Here we go. So if you don't already have Drive file stream downloaded to your computer, I highly recommend it because it is a great way to store all your files on the cloud and still have them like locally on your computer as well. So it's kind of like the best of both worlds. So you don't have to keep going into like this area to find your files if you happen to have them in here. You can have them also pulled up on your computer. So like here's my Drive file stream. So I basically everything that's in here on my Google Drive is also locally on my computer in my Drive file stream. And everything syncs up like almost immediately. It's amazing actually how quickly it syncs up. So what I'll do is before I meet with them in class, I'll go to the lecture notes that we're going to be working on that day, and I'll pull it up locally on my computer. So like here's the lecture notes packet that I just showed you. And actually I already had it open, so I didn't really need to do that. So here's that page. And now if I were to add something to this, that's of course not the answer. And then if I save this, if I go back to where I had this pulled up and I hit refresh, I'll just show you that it'll, I guess I have two of them pulled up right now. And it might not be instant, so give me it might take a little bit longer than that. We'll see. So I have to kind of scroll down to where I was here. So it's not quite there yet, but if I hit refresh again, it'll probably be there. But anyway, so the idea is that they're synced up together, and whatever I do in here, I can hit save, and sometimes it takes like 1 minute or something. And then I can hit refresh and it'll show students that when they go to this particular lecture notes, which again, the way that they got to here was from this particular link that I put as a widget in D2L. And so this link comes from my drive basically. So you can share a link to a document in Google Drive. So I'll show you kind of what that looks like. So here's my Calc 2, and then it was spring term. And here's that lecture notes. And again, I'll show you how I pulled it up on my computer as well. So notice these are the same. Just one is I'm in like Google Drive, the other one I'm in my Google Drive file stream, more like locally on my computer. So if you right click something that you want to share with students, you can do get shareable link. And now it copied it to my, it just copied it for me, but you can also go to the share settings and make sure that the settings are how you want it to be. So I have it right now as anyone with the link can comment, so they can comment on things if they want to. Since this is a PDF, you can't edit it, but you kind of need to decide whether you want people to be able to edit it or not. So I have that like that. And then I basically just copy and paste that into, that's what this link is right here. So when they click on that, it basically takes them to this particular file in my Google Drive that I've shared with everybody. Any questions so far about any of this? Oh, the special pen, I do. Yeah, so anytime that you have a Microsoft Surface, it doesn't automatically come with it unless you get like a bundle, but there is a pen, so kind of like Alma's Apple Pen as well. It's pretty similar. And it doesn't it just works with the Microsoft Surface. It doesn't work with anything else that I know of. So it's different than like a stylus where you can use that on any touch screen. This is recognized differently than a finger. So usually it recognizes fingers as scrolls. So I can use my finger to scroll up and down, and I can use my pen to write on things. So basically, as we work through problems, I can just, answer the question and go through it and just use my pen in a similar way that Alma showed. Another thing I like about this one is there's an eraser at the end. So it's almost similar, it's really similar to just using a pen. If I use my eraser, it'll just erase the things that I've written. Okay, so we go through these basically, and a lot of times what I'll do is I'll have students go into breakout rooms, and I'll say, for example, okay, we are going to do number 2. And so they will be working on this together. So I'll do breakout rooms, and then everyone will work on this particular one in their breakout room. And then we'll come back to the main session, and I'll kind of write up the solutions and then save it, and we all have it available. So a great way to do this in the breakout rooms, basically I make sure that all the students have this pulled up on their screen if they can. If they're on their phone, they might not be able to, but, and then I have them use the annotate tool. So I'll show you the annotate tool here in Zoom, which allows everyone to just write on the screen. So I figured you guys probably don't feel like doing calculus. Am I safe to assume that? So I pulled up a little coloring page for us to do instead. So if you scroll up to the top where it says Austina Fong is sharing her screen, and then there should be a drop down, and you should have an annotate button that you can click on. So I have one right here that's pretty readily available. And then you can see draw, there's text. Let's just start with the drawing, and you can kind of pick a color that you want. And if everyone wants to just, color in the page, I'm coloring the apple red right now. So just give it a try, and you can kind of see what students do. That's some interesting coloring there. And you can erase things too. So if you go to the clear, you can see there's like clear, I'm not sure if everyone has this or not, but there's clear my drawings, clear all drawings, clear viewers drawings. So you can get rid of everything. You can get rid of only your stuff. You can get rid of only their stuff. So it's a great way to kind of like, everyone can be seeing the same thing and be interacting with the content at the same time. You guys are doing a good job on this so far. I think we need some green on the leaf up here. So now something important to point out here is that this is, I guess what I would call like a surface kind of thing, not like my Microsoft Surface, but like everything that we're doing is just on the surface of what we're seeing. So if I clear this, like everything's gonna be gone. If someone wants to save something, they can actually go up and save it, and it gets saved to your computer locally, just automatically actually, which is pretty nice. Another thing people can do, because sometimes it can be hard for people to, you know, if you don't have a pen and we're trying to do math, my students have started to joke about who has the best mouse handwriting. They've been kind of practicing with it. So you can, you can do your best to kind of do the mouse. I'm using my mouse right now to write hello, but you can also insert text, as some people have seen so far. So some students choose to do that when they're working on their screen. One thing I want to point out is this annotation tool does not work with Chromebooks, unfortunately. And then I'm not sure about the capabilities with like if a student's on with their phone. I don't think they can really do this. But when I have students in that situation, usually they're like the supervisors and they're letting people know who are writing on the screen, like whether they agree with what's being written so far. So they can still definitely engage and interact with the content. So then usually after that, we'll go back to, so I'm going to save this because it's so beautiful. And then I'm going to go ahead and clear everything now. And so then after, I'll kind of go back to, make it out of the annotation, there we go. I'll go back into here, kind of fill everything in and then save it. And then like we have a full, nice completed lecture notes for the day. Any questions about that though first, like the annotation tool or kind of how Google Drive syncs things or anything like that? That's right, Casey. Yeah, so Chromebooks can't annotate. Yeah, and it's, smartphones should be able to. That's good to know. Thanks, Casey.
So with a breakout room, students would normally just be working on these calculus problems. So they would be using the mouse, really just drawing with the mouse.
Yeah, and I do have some students, like I have a few students actually who have a Surface or a tablet, and so they can kind of write a little bit more nicer. And then sometimes they are kind of like volunteered to be the writer because they're able to write so nicely on the screen. But then yeah, other times they just will use the text feature, or they'll just do their best, do their best with their mouse. And we actually, a lot of times we have a fun laugh about it because it's kind of funny to try to write with your mouse. So yes, so Tiff, students, I think you can change the security settings on that, but I believe it's set up so that anyone can annotate while you're sharing your screen, but I believe you can turn that off. So I think if you go to the security tab, let me do that. Oh yeah, so I have the security tab pulled up and there's a check mark next to annotate on shared content. So right now it's checked that it's allowed. If you don't want them to be able to do that, then just uncheck it. I haven't had any issues though with students like, writing on it when I'm not wanting them to. So, but that's a way you can kind of remove that feature if you don't want it on there. So one other thing that I wanted to show y'all as we're getting in, especially as we're getting into midterms, is it's really similar to what Alma showed as far as the assignment grader on the iPad. But if you don't have an iPad, you can still use the assignment grader. So first thing I want to mention is the, so Dropboard PDF is what I'm using, by the way, to write on my actual lecture notes. So if you're curious as to what that is. And then when I'm grading, so sorry to get back to grading now, and yes, students can share their screens in breakout rooms. So if students need to submit their work, I highly recommend using Adobe Scan. It's basically they can use the camera on their smartphone to turn multiple pages into a single PDF file. So what that looks like is I've got like something that I just dropped in to my development shell. And I used Adobe Scan to do this. So you probably have seen this before when you're in the assignments tab, if you've used the assignments tab here. So this is the document, and you can use the annotate tool to write directly onto the student's work. So some tips about this, because like Alma said, like it's definitely not a perfect tool, but I feel like now that I've used it so much, I can do everything really quickly now. So I'll give you some tips that I found. First thing is, notice if I want to get to the pen, look how many times I have to click to get there. It's kind of ridiculous. So I highly recommend being in full screen when you're using this annotation tool, because notice once I go full screen, now I click here and now everything's at my fingertips. And so it ends up being much, much easier. So you can do different colored pens. And I found that depending on the color of students' work, you might be choosing like blue. Sometimes I've even used white to write on someone's paper because it was so dark. But this usually works pretty well. So I'll say good job. So I'm writing with my pen right now. And you can change the thickness. So if that's not quite the thickness that is working in this particular one, you can adjust that. That looks a little bit better. And then you can also do notes, which I really like. So if you don't have a pen kind of thing where you have the capability to write on your screen, the notes are really nice because you can click anywhere and then you can change the color of it as well. Usually the note is bigger than this. I'm not sure why it's so small in this particular case. So then you can actually type out your feedback too. And then that way, especially if students' work is really crammed, when I click out of this, they just hover over the note and then they'll see their feedback. And again, usually the note is bigger than this. I'm not sure why it's so small on mine here. So those are the main two things that I use, are the pen and then the note feature if I want to type something out. And then there's an eraser and a highlighter as well. So the eraser is great if you wrote something and you want to get rid of it. Instead of like using the eraser, you can also just kind of click out of it. So when I did that, I clicked over in this area to kind of get rid of the pen part. So if you select it, I'm trying, of course, in this moment, it isn't liking me. Probably because I'm trying to do so many things at once. There we go. So you can surround, you can even change the color of it if you decided later that maybe that color wasn't the right one that you wanted to do. You can even change the thickness of it so you don't have to keep thing and rewriting. And then you can also delete it. If you're like, oh, nope, I didn't mean to write that. And then you can delete those things. So again, full screen is definitely the way to go. And then another thing I like about this is similar to the assignment grader in the iPad, you can still put the number of points and you can actually type in feedback here as well. So if you're wondering how this gets viewed to the student, then once you publish this, so if you go to view as student, it basically says view online feedback, and then they click on that link and they see the thing that you annotated. So here, so I've got unread feedback, and then they click on view inline feedback. And if you've written anything there, they'll see that as well. And so this is when they'll get to see what they had submitted and your notes are. So yeah, that's kind of how they would end up viewing feedback.
Awesome.
Wow. Okay. Well, thanks everyone.
Go ahead.
Yeah. I was just going to say, I'm sure that Austina and Alma and Dorina and Casey are all willing to take questions if you want to contact them later.
Thank you again, Austina, Alma, and Dorina. And yeah, if you guys have any questions, feel free to reach out, or maybe we'll see you in that open lab on Friday. Thank you for joining us, everybody.